The final countdown. When Isaella slew the Mad Emperor, do you imagine she had no doubts? To take up arms against her friend, the man she had sworn a sacred oath to protect against all threats? Do you imagine killing him was that easy? We don't praise Isaella for her skill with arms. We praise her because in the face of all her doubts, she had the courage to act. That is what it means to be a hero. Isaella understood what her actions would mean. She knew that slaying the Emperor would unleash chaos. She knew that it would mean her death. And still, she did not hesitate. Faced with 1,000 reasons to hesitate, to wait, to delay, she chose to ignore them all. She knew that inaction brings only shame and never victory. It is easy for us here, now, after the fact. Now when the Mad Emperor is gone and long buried, when his legacy is dust, his supporters vanquished. Now it seems like there was never any other choice. We understand now, as only Isaella understood then, that all those doubts, those fears, they were just spectres sent to harry her soul. They were never real. And so it will seem to our children, to our descendants. We, who will surely die if we take this path, will seem to them as if we made the only possible choice. They will not know our doubts. They will not understand our fears. History will see right through them. All that will remain after we are gone are the legends we leave. This is what it means to be a hero. To not see with the eyes of now, but to see as Isaella saw. To see with the eyes of history. Only then can you see what needs to be done. You at the back. Will you be Isaella? Overview. At the winter solstice, Anira of Exile's End used the Navarre Assembly to ask the Navarre people for their opinion following the work published on the Valorn and how to destroy it. Further statements followed next season from both the Navarre and Highguard, with an eloquent call to action. The Grey Pilgrims of Highguard and the Questing Knights of Dawn did not join our cause simply to walk the trods for another 1,000 years, said Shan Eternal. It's time to act with wisdom and forethought, but act nonetheless. The highborn Dr. Lysimachus appeared to concur with that view, and reminded Highguard that the Valorn was the greatest spiritual threat to the Empire, a pointed call back to the decision by the Empire to found the Grey Pilgrims for the express purpose of combating the Valorn. There is widespread support for these views across the people of Navarre and Highguard, but the matter is not yet settled. There is a growing hope that, after centuries, this could be the hour. Yet, there are voices in both lands that urge caution. It is very clear that the Empire can do this, and that is not the same as saying they should do this. There is always a choice. Now Highguard, and most especially the Navarre, must make that choice. It is not an exaggeration to say that everything hinges on this. If the Empire chooses to begin the final war with the Valorn, then nothing will ever be the same again. There can be no ducking this decision. It is too important, too momentous, too pressing. One way or another, the Navarre and the Empire must decide. A time to shine. There is predictable cynicism from some quarters that the politics of Anvil will not favour the Navarre. When the Jotun threatened the Navarre holdings in the Athavan, it was not the time. The territory fell to the barbarians, the steadings destroyed, the people slaughtered. When the Valorn in Broceliande was vulnerable for the first time in a generation, it was not the time, and a vital chance to weaken the Valorn was lost. The situation at the moment is difficult. Nobody denies it. The Jotun are attacking in the west, the Druge have just invaded Theranin, and the Grendel are not yet defeated in the south. There is a widespread belief that the powers that be will look to the Imperial Military Council and they will say it is not the time. The Navarre will be told that it must make this sacrifice for the good of the Empire, as if they hadn't been sacrificing everything for the good of the Empire for the best part of 4 centuries already. It is not enough to give in to cynicism, says Maddock of the Fleeting Star Striding, who claims that the military council could be persuaded to support attempts to join the Hearts. If the Valorn in Leathavan exploded forth from its dark heart, it would pose an enormous problem for the Jotun, who would be forced to divert armies to try and oppose any westward expansion. Likewise, if the Heart in the Sarengrave were triggered, it would spell disaster for the Druj. They would have to pull back some, or all, of their armies to contain it. Triggering the Valorn is guaranteed to radically alter the Empire's military position, but it's not guaranteed to make it worse. Unable to settle these arguments, people look with optimism to their leaders at Anvil to settle this matter once and for all. Can it be done? The will among the Navarre is there. People are ready to sacrifice everything for this, to give up everything, to commit everything. But is now the right time? The people trust their leaders to make that decision. Once made, that decision will be difficult to turn back. Beginning the final war against the Valorn would be transformative for the Navarre. Their stridings would no longer need to walk the trods. There would be no more need to weaken the Valorn one step at a time anymore. That would mean all those Navarre warriors would become available to take up the fight. It's impossible to predict the changes that will follow such a decision, but nothing will be the same. The people of Navarre are looking to their leaders at Anvil for an answer. The priests of Navarre could use a mandate in the assembly to seize this moment. We march to war. We send, this named priest, with 200 liao to urge every Navarre to remember the oaths they swore. Let us eradicate the ancient abomination and fulfill our nation's ambition to see the end of the Valorn for good. Synod Mandate, Navarre Assembly. If this mandate is enacted, then most of the stridings will stop walking the trods and return home in preparation for the final battle to begin. There will be a huge swell of enthusiasm as people from across the nation embrace the coming fight. As a result, the number of armies that Navarre can maintain will increase from 3 to 6. Almost every Navarre will commit themselves fully to the coming war. The Navarre have always had a somewhat singular focus. This mandate will strengthen that resolve. In the seasons that follow, there will be far fewer opportunities like the recent proposal to build new wayhouses. Instead, every effort will be made to find new opportunities to gain the upper hand in the struggle against the Valorn. At the first stage, the Navarre scouts will seek to identify opportunities to place the trods in Bantal Dol in Sarengrave and Cabania and Vioskuma in Axos. Once the dance of Navarre and Thorn is cast in these 3 territories, then the final war against the Valorn will begin. When that happens, there will be no going back. The castings will need to be timed right to ensure the Druj and Axu can't simply take them down before the network of trods is complete. But nobody said this would be easy. By enacting this mandate, the Assembly is confirming that it is the settled will of the leaders of Navarre that the nation begins the war against the Valorn at the soonest available opportunity. It might not happen immediately, but the final countdown will have begun. Once that decision is made, the Navarre will expect their leaders to see it through, to be entirely committed to the imminent war against the Valorn. In return, they will offer their own absolute commitment, seeking out ways to help the long dream of the Navarre to become a reality. A time to stay. Not every Navarre is persuaded that now is the time to act. It is easy to urge people to have the courage of their convictions, easy to be swept up by the siren call of history, easy to decry those who urge caution. I always pause for thought before I act, says Dice Summers rhetorically. What do you do? What if now is not the right time? What if starting the final war with the Valorn now results in the destruction of the Empire? What if everyone dies and the Navarre have to begin the whole thing all over again? It's taken centuries to get to this point. Why not wait a few more decades? Right now, it seems like everything would hang in the balance. Why not wait until things are in the Navarre's favour? It will be hard for people to accept that now is not the time, but they trust the wisdom of the Navarre at Anvil. Every Thorn wants to be Isayella, everyone wants to be a hero, but sensible people must know that the most important thing is to win. The people of Navarre are looking to their leaders at Anvil for an answer. The priests of Navarre could use a mandate in the assembly to seize this moment. Actions have consequences. We send this named priest with 100 doses of Liao to remind Navarre that first we must prepare for malice. We will not start this war until the outcome is certain. Synod Mandate, Navarre Assembly. If this mandate is enacted, then people will be disappointed, but they will accept it. The knowledge of how to defeat the Valorn is not going away. The final battle might not happen for a generation, but people can use that time to prepare, to make ready, to ensure when the moment comes their descendants can strike with the certainty that the path to victory has been prepared. The mandate will still produce significant changes. Stridings may continue to walk the trods as they have done since the Navarre began, but where before the Navarre would risk much to seize any chance for an advantage over the Valorn, now they will go out of their way to avoid it. There is no point in risking lives on foolish ventures when it is settled that now is not the time. Better to husband their strength and prepare. In the seasons that follow, there will be far more opportunities like the recent proposal to build new wayhouses, but at the cost of new opportunities to deal with the Valorn. The ancient enemy will be left to slumber in its dark hearts, and the Navarre will turn their focus to strengthening their nation and the Empire. In many ways, it will be like a dry run of the future. A decade without ever having to worry about the Valorn will be a kind of preparation for when the day dawns that there is no Valorn. Your darkened land. The people of Navarre are looking to their leaders to make the most momentous decision any Navarre has made since the fall of Turuniel, since Navarre and Thorn swore their first oaths. They understand how difficult it will be to make this decision. Nonetheless, there's no one else who can make this judgment. Only the leaders at Anvil know what the Senate could be persuaded of. Only they know what the military council can be persuaded of. Only they can know what the throne really thinks. People are relying on their leaders to step up at this moment and make a decision, one way or the other. The Navarre people will give their leaders time, but only a little. If the Navarre cannot make the decision in the next 2 seasons, if the National Assembly does not enact either mandate before the end of the autumn equinox, if they can't make up their mind whether to fight the Valorn or to wait a generation and to use that time to prepare before winter comes, then there will be a catastrophic loss of confidence in the Navarre leadership. Every personal resource in the nation will suffer a 2-rank penalty to their production for the next year as a result. A time to sing. The Highborn have been unequivocal on the matter of the Valorn. Their assembly has repeatedly called it the greatest spiritual threat the Empire has ever faced. The Grey Pilgrims were founded to support the Navarre by taking up the burden of walking the trods. They gave up their comfortable lives in Highguard to commit themselves to a task that at the time seemed interminable. Now it seems that the timing was simply apposite, fated even. Like the Navarre, the Highborn Assembly could embrace the chance to begin the war against the Valorn. Like the Navarre, this choice would have a profound impact on the nation. It's not just that there will be no more need to walk the trods. The start of the war with the Valorn will invite the Highborn to consider other changes too. Is now the time to be building a grand inspiration of the way in Bastion, when the survival of the very Empire might be at stake? It's difficult to predict what quandaries such a decision will raise if the Highborn pass this mandate. There is no sacrifice so great that we cannot meet it to defeat this terror. We send this named priest with 200 Liao to urge every Highborn to prepare for the coming battle. No price is too high to realise our dreams. Synod Mandate, Highborn Assembly. If this mandate is enacted, then the Grey Pilgrims will stop walking the trods and return home in preparation for the final battle to begin. As a result, the number of armies that the Highborn can support will increase from 3 to 4. The Highborn nation are committed to defeating the Valorn, but they don't have the singular focus of the Navarre. Their nation was not literally founded to achieve this outcome. Even so, this mandate will strengthen the resolve that led to the creation of the Grey Pilgrims. In the seasons that follow, there will be fewer opportunities like the recent proposal to convert the Assaveans, and instead, every effort will be made to find new opportunities to gain the upper hand in the struggle against the Valorn. By enacting this mandate, the Assembly is confirming that the virtuous thing to do is to begin the war against the Valorn at the first opportunity to do so. Once that decision is made, it will be difficult to persuade Highguard to turn aside, no matter what any other nation in the Empire says. The way of virtue makes few allowances for those who would cower from the path they have chosen when the storms blow. If the Highborn Assembly commits the nation to war with the Valorn, if they declare that now is the moment to strike, then every virtuous citizen in the nation will expect them to stick to the course. The decision will create many opportunities to bring the grand plan outlined in the Valorn research to fruition. Once that decision is made, the Highborn will expect their leaders to see it through, to be entirely committed to the imminent war against the Valorn. In return, they will offer their own absolute commitment, seeking out ways to bring the greatest spiritual threat to the Empire to an end. The will of the virtuous cannot be denied. A time to live. Most Navarre agree that, if this is to happen, it will not be done by the Navarre alone. Was it not for this that Merfanwi and those that followed her joined with the first empress to spread the word of what would become the imperial dream? The issue is pressing for the Highborn Assembly and demands an answer from the Navarre Assembly, but the other nations have yet to speak clearly. Perhaps there is time yet for Navarre guides and others to persuade their allies to rally to their cause. There are no mandates for the other assemblies, but any of the nation's assemblies could use a statement of principle to respond to this dramatic moment. Statements that get a greater majority that urge clear, concrete action on the Valorn, one way or the other, are more than likely to lead to a mandate to commit the nation to a course of action. Timing. Unlike traditional mandates, those available to the Navarre and Highborn assemblies listed here can be enacted at either the summer solstice or the autumn equinox. After that, the opportunities will be lost.